Hello, UK. This is Grandpa, calling you all the way from St. Albans in Vermont, in America. And I have a story for you. Your father, when he was a little boy, had a mop of red hair, beautiful red hair. And a lot of people used to like David, and he'd had lots of friends, and you know he'd go to a shop where they sold cookies and donuts and things, and he'd start looking at them, and then the man behind the counter would say, "Oh, you better have one of these." So he'd give him one for nothing, and he was always getting lost. We used to go skiing up at Jay Peak, or to watch people skiing, and we lost David, couldn't find him anywhere, didn't know where on earth he was. And the next thing we knew, the big voice came over the loudspeaker, somebody looking for a little boy with red hair, and we got him back. We got him back with a security man holding his hand. So we just managed to keep him till he grew up and went to college and all the rest of it. But he loves telling jokes. And your father will have to explain to you what moonshine is. It's a very strong drink. And he played a trick on Ian once. It's such a strong drink, you take it with just a little tiny glass.
I think it was apple wine that he made, wasn't it?
No. So we were having dinner, and it was David's friend, the guy who made this moonshine. So David took a drink of the moonshine and just swallowed it down. Whoop. And then Ian took his little drink and did the same thing. And he was choking and coughing, going, because he got the real thing.
Oh, David poured himself a glass of water?
Yeah, David thought it was a glass of water. Well, David knew it was a glass of water.
Right. I thought it was apple wine and David poured himself a glass of juice or something.
But when I was a little boy, I had an uncle who was a carpenter, and he made us what we called a go-kart. That was like a box with a plank underneath it, and had front wheels and back wheels, and you put your feet on the front wheels and steered them like this with a string. So we were playing on the street. It's a very quiet street. But my brother said, "Just give me a push." So I pushed him across the road. Next thing I saw was horses' legs and this van that they used to bring around with bread. My brother just pulled his legs up, and I saw this wheel of the cart go over the go-kart to the front part of it. That's one story I had from when I was a child.
And then didn't Spotty come, or some kid come along and put spots on it or something?
Well, yes, we had a friend, Donald had a friend called Tweety. And Tweety was always getting into trouble and doing crazy things. And in Ramsey, we have what we call a harbour, where the boats come in. But the sea, we have tides, and the sea comes in and goes out twice a day. And when it comes in, it could be maybe 20, 25 feet higher than what it is at the low tide. So Tweety somehow or other managed to fall in the harbour. So it must have been about a good 20, 25 feet that he fell. But he didn't seem to get hurt at all. But as far as the go-kart goes, my brother painted this go-kart a nice green colour, and we went in for lunch, and when we came out, Tweety had taken a paintbrush with some white paint and put big daubs of white paint all over the go-kart. So my brother was mad like anything, and he just took the brush and just swished it all over, so it ended up a sort of greeny, creamy white colour. It was a very good go-kart.
Did you go beat Tweety up?
Pardon?
Did you go beat Tweety up?
No, we didn't do things like that.
I'm sure you didn't.
Well, I'll tell you another story. We used to drink what you call soda. We used to call it pop. And it was very gassy. So to keep the gas in the bottle had a sort of glass ball in the neck, and you couldn't drink it out of a bottle. You had to have a straw to drink it. So my brother was taking me up to the quarry where we had a little place where we could make a fire. And we used to eat herrings and take the fish up and cook them on some twigs. We'd make a little fire and cook them and then eat them. So I was trotting along behind my brother, Donald. How are we going to drink the pop? We don't have any glasses to put it in. Well, we don't have any straws. You couldn't put it in a glass because it didn't come out. You had to have a straw to drink it. So on the way through, we went through an oat field. And oats is a grain that grows and has a very stiff straw. So we had a straw each from the oat field. And then we got up to where we were going to cook the herring. And how are we going to get the fire going? We've got no matches with us. But Donald had a magnifying glass. And when you play the magnifying glass on the twigs, the sun makes it very hot. Your father better not let you have one of those. And so we'd start the fire. And we had a very nice childhood in the Isle of Man, because we used to be free all the time. Our parents never really knew where we were. We were walking over the hills and things. So that meant we had a really nice childhood, as I'm sure you're having. Okay, just stop it for a minute. Well, on the farm we had a manure spreader to spread the manure from the barn. And we also had a mowing machine to cut the hay, cut the grass, which we made into hay. And to get the mowing machine on the tractor was a really difficult job. It used to take a couple of hours. And so Connor and I went down. We finally got the mowing machine on the tractor. And then Connor said, "Well, didn't you really come down to get the manure spreader?" So, well, yeah, I did. I came to get the manure spreader. So then we had to take it all off again and finally hitch up the manure spreader. So that was a disappointing day.
Wasn't David a hard worker when he was younger?
He certainly was. You have a very funny picture of David in the pond, playing around the pond with a Texaco hat on. It's a very famous picture. And there's also a picture of, we had an apple tree that produced really nice apples. And there's a picture of David eating one of those nice red rosy apples. But he was a very kind father.
Well, son. David, you mean? David was kind?
Yeah.
Like, he was kind like his father. Ramsey, you were very kind, a very kind father. When you weren't chasing us with some stick or something. Chasing us around.
He was a very well behaved little boy.
David is always funny. Everything he said was hilarious.
But we thought we couldn't find him at one point. I had a friend who had a little boy, and he was out on his tricycle, and they used to deliver coal in a big truckload, and they tipped the coal down a hole with a cover that had a cover. Normally they'd take the cover off and tip the coal. It would go down the chute into the basement of the house. Well, this little boy was out watching the truck back up to tip the load, and unfortunately the truck driver didn't see him, and he got covered with coal, or backed over, killed anyway. And one day we had a delivery of gravel, and it was a big heap of gravel in the road, and at that point we couldn't find David anywhere. We didn't know where on earth he was. We were really worried in case he was under the gravel. But fortunately, for all of us, he wasn't. He was hiding somewhere.
David,
We had lots of places to hide, in the horse barn, and the woodshed, and the barn. And we had ropes hanging from the ceiling in there. They used to like to go swinging on the ropes. So I think they had a wonderful childhood, actually.
we used to make hay forts.
Pardon?
We used to make hay forts in the hay.
Oh yeah, they used to make hay forts. And then I would go out to get some hay, feed the cows, and I'd fall into these hay forts, into these holes they'd make. In fact, they used to make traps for me specially.
We didn't make them specially for you. We would make a big pit of hay, and then we'd put barn board over it and sprinkle it with hay.
Yeah.
And it wasn't our fault you fell into the pits.
Yeah. They used to make traps for me to fall in.
I don't think we made traps for you to fall in on purpose.
Well, if you had a barn board with some hay on it.
Well, it was to hide our fort, not to trap.